Yada Yahowah. Mow'ed Miqra'ey. God's calendar. Mow'ed Miqra'ey, witness to the invitations. God's calendar. We are invited to attend 7 annual meetings with our Heavenly Father and spiritual Mother. Spread out over the course of 7 months, these gatherings serve one to enable the benefits of the covenant and establish Yahowah's family. The Mow'ed Miqra'ey work as a cohesive whole, serving as God's 7-step plan to bring us home. The Modim, eternal and restoring witness to the Miqra'ey, invitations to be called out and meet include Pesach, Passover, Matzah, unyeasted bread, Bikurim, firstborn children, Shabat, the promise of the Shabat, Towrah, trumpets, Kippurim, reconciliations and Sukkah, shelters. The invitations to these Chag celebrations are presented in Yahowah's Torah, teaching and then explained throughout his Nabi, prophets. Through them, Yahowah prolongs our days, perfects our souls, adopts us into his family, and then he enriches and empowers his children, enabling us to share the means to reconciliation so that we can camp out together. Within Yada Yahowah volumes 4, 5 and 6, Miqra'ey, invitations, Katzah, harvests, and Mow'ed, appointments, you will find a detailed presentation of what we have come to learn about these dates by more accurately translating Yahowah's testimony regarding them, and he advises you to listen to him prior to celebrating any of them. This volume exists to help those who are interested in accurately dating the remaining Mow'ed Miqra'ey better appreciate the process. It does not attempt to thoroughly explain what each date represents, since that has already been accomplished. The calendar for these meetings was set 3,480 years prior to its completion, long before the advent of mechanized timepieces. Therefore, Yahowah used the most reliable means available during this period to date his invitations. The lunar cycle set within a solar year was deployed to designate the timing of every important occasion. The initial visible sign of the sun's light being restored upon the moon's surface served to establish the first day of a new month. Each would last between 29 and 30 days, and then the cycle would renew again. With lunar phases transpiring over 29.5 days, the 11-day disparity between 12 lunar months and the solar year was accommodated by the intercalation of an extra month 7 out of every 19 years. This lunar-solar cycle is in near-perfect equivalence with the Earth's orbit around the Sun. Intercalations in years 3, 6, 8, 11, 14, 17, and 19 of the cycle were used to calculate dates well into the future. The same result is achieved when the first month of a new solar year begins within 14 days of the vernal equinox. In an agrarian society, this coincided with the emergence of barley, with the new year commencing in the early spring as the kernel was still green and growing within the ear. It is why Yahowah's calendar begins in Abib, green and growing, a name which is descriptive of this process. This was the most reliable means to keep time, and it worked throughout the known world. As a result, the Torah year begins as the first crescent moon emerged after the formation of barley kernels. For all practical 3 purposes, that is the renewed moon closest to the vernal equinox, around March 20th each year. The annual journey from human oppression to the promised land, and to camping out with God, begins on the 14th day of Abib with Pesach, Passover, which means that it always occurs on the brightly lit nights of a full moon. This is immediately followed by Matzah, unyeasted bread leading to Bikurim, firstborn children, transpiring over the course of 3 successive days. We become immortal on Passover, freeing us from the consequence of religion. Our souls are redeemed on unyeasted bread, because our guilt was taken away from us, exonerating us from separation from God. Then for those who observe these appointments with capitalizing upon them, on firstborn children we are adopted into the covenant family. These gifts are provided by Father and Son, with Yahowah and Dowd working together to save us from the controlling influences of humankind. 7 sevens later, during the Mow'ed Miqra'ey, eternal witness to the invitation to be called out and meet of Shabat, 7 Shabbats, a grand party is held where everyone is invited regardless of race, age, or social status. Those who have answered the summons and who are the beneficiaries of Pesach, Matzah, and Bikurim are enveloped in Yahowah's set-apart spirit, enriching, enlightening, and empowering us to become witnesses to the other guests, and then to the world. On the first day of the 7th month, on the Mow'ed Miqra'ey of Towrah, trumpets, Yahowah's spirit-filled trumpeters are called to signal a warning, and to shout for joy. The blaring proclamation is for those who do not yet know Yahowah, issuing them an invitation to engage in the covenant. For Yom Kippurim follows 10 days later, serving as Yahowah's invitation to reconcile his relationship with Israel and Yahweh. It also signifies the day Yahowah will return with the Messiah, Dowd, to restore and protect Israel. 5 days thereafter, on the 15th of the 7th month, we are afforded the opportunity to camp out with Yahowah during Sukkah for 7 days, with an 8th day added to remind us that these conditions will continue forevermore. Sukkah is symbolic of living in God's presence for all eternity. consistent with Yahowah's plan of 6, representing humankind, in addition to God who is one, yielding a perfect result, as is denoted by 7, there are 6 steps in the Torah's approach to God, with the 7th representing the desired destination. And so it will be, after 6,000 years of struggle and strife, humankind will spend the millennial Shabat with Yahowah here on earth, which will be restored to resemble the Gan Eden, Garden of Joy. Therefore, the first 3 Miqra'ey, invitations to be called out and meet, Pesach, Passover, Matzah, unyeasted bread, and Bikurim, firstborn children, occur over 3 successive days in the spring, on the 14th, 15th, and 16th days of the lunar month of Abib. During them, we are to eat lamb with bitter herbs, consume bread without yeast for 7 days, and many of us add a glass of wine in remembrance of Daud's sacrifice and Yahowah's provisions. These celebrations of the relationship God intended represent his gifts of eternal life, perfection, and adoption. We should use these opportunities to read God's word, focusing on prophecies directly attributable to the events we are celebrating. The first 3 Miqra'ey have been fulfilled, played out in human history. Daud enjoyed Passover with friends after sundown on Thursday, April 2, 33 CE, on the Julian 5 calendar. Then he served as the Passover lamb on Friday, Abib 14, year 4000 year, which was April 3, 33 CE. Daud's soul, freed of his corporeal body, fulfilled the promise of unyeasted bread, removing the stigma of religion from our souls the following day on the Shabat of Abib 15, 4000 year, which we know as Saturday, April 4, 33 CE. The next day, during Bikurim, Daud's soul was freed from Shaul and reunited with the Ruach Kodesh, set-apart spirit in a celebration of firstborn children on Abib 16, year 4000 year. It was April 5, 33 CE. 7 times 7 days after Bikurim we are invited to attend Shabat with the festival of 7 Shabbats, also known as the Promise of 7. It was fulfilled on schedule on Sivan 6, 4000 year, May 24, 33 CE when the Malakah, maternal counselor and spiritual messenger enriched and empowered the beneficiaries of Pesach, Matzah, and Bikurim. Shabat is the only feast where the diet is varied and bread with yeast is designated. With the fulfillment of the first 4 Mow'ed Miqra'ey in year 4000 year, the benefits of the Berith covenant are manifest. Enriching and empowering the children he has adopted, perfected, and immortalized, family members are prepared to serve as heralds on Towrah. In the fall, on the 1st, 10th, and 15th day of Ethanim, the 7th lunar month, Yahowah invites us to convey his message, to reconcile our relationship, and to camp out with him. We do so by celebrating the Mow'ed Miqra'ey of Towrah, trumpets, Yom Kippurim, the day of reconciliations, and Sukkah, shelters. Towrah foretells of the time the covenant's children will be withdrawn so that they do not have to endure the worst of Jacob's troubles, when Jews will be attacked from every direction. Towrah will occur on the 1st day of the 7th month between 2026 and 2029. Sadly, this compassionate harvest will go largely unnoticed in 6 Yisrael. And between now and then, it is our mission to alert as many people as possible so that they are ready for Yahowah's return. On Yom Kippurim in 2033, October 2nd at sunset in Yerushalayim, Jerusalem, as father and son are holding a family reunion at a time and pace that will be impossible to ignore. While the Hasidic community will be excoriated and excommunicated, the surviving secular remnant of Israel will restore their relationship with Yahowah. It is on this day that King David, the Mashiach, Messiah, will resume his role as king. The millennial celebration of the Shabat, representing 1000 years of Sukkah, camping out, will commence at sunset on the Shabat of October 7, 2033. It represents the time when Yahowah will live among his people for 1000 years on earth. During this time the planet will be restored to the conditions experienced in the Garden of Eden, which means there will be no religion or politics, militaries or conspiracy theorists. Here are the dates Yahowah established for his annual meetings with his family. Passover, Pesach, Abib, 1st month, 14th day, starts twilight of 13th. Unyeasted bread, Matzah, Abib, 1st month, 15th day, lasts 7 days. Firstborn children, Bikurim, Abib, 1st month, 16th day. 7 sevens, Shabat, 49 days after Bikurim. Trumpets, Towrah, Ethanim, 7th month, 1st day. Reconciliations, Kippurim, Ethanim, 7th month, 10th day. 7 shelters, Sukkah, Ethanim, 7th month, 15th day, 7 plus 1 equals 8 days. Before we superimpose God's appointed schedule on the Gregorian calendar, there are some things you should know. First, after the Romans pummeled Judea following Rabbi Akiba's feigned messianic uprising in 133 CE, initiating the diaspora, and subsequent harassment by Roman Catholics and Muslims, there were very few Jews growing crops in Israel. Therefore, using barley as an indication as to when to begin the new year became problematic. And yet, while Israelites no longer possess the same variety of grain, other Middle Eastern strains ripen within weeks of the vernal equinox each spring. Second, climatic conditions have changed appreciably since these instructions were given to Moses 3,470 years ago. Therefore, even if similar varieties were planted, there is no assurance that barley would bud at precisely the same time. Moreover, as an indicator, barley only allows us to establish each new year, the initiation of that year, as this is an observed mechanism, not a predictive one. The most difficult challenge afforded those who attempt to set future Miqra'ey dates is that the Torah does not specify a precise methodology for determining the first day of a new month. Using Yahowah's testimony as our sole source of instruction, all we are afforded to establish the mowed dates is that the process begins when the moon is Hadesh, renewed, beginning with Abib, ripening barley. That, however, could mean the exact moment the moon begins to reflect the sun's light, and thus initiates a waxing crescent, or when that initial sliver is first visible from Earth. If it is the latter, no instructions were given as to when or where the renewed moon was to be observed, how large a crescent was required for it to qualify, or what to do in situations when the sky was overcast. 8 Mizmor, Psalm 81:3 reads, "Sound a horn, Takar, blow a blast, during, Bar, the renewed moon, Ha-Hadesh, trumpet a ram's horn, Shofar, during, Bar, the Ha, new or hidden moon, Keseh, covered, concealed, and hidden, on, La, the day, Yam, of our festival feast, Chag." The combination of Keseh, from Kasa, concealed, and Hadesh, renewed suggests that the month begins during what we might call a new moon. This then presents an observational challenge because that which is concealed is by definition difficult to see. And also, a new moon appears in the proximity of the setting sun, further obscuring it from our vision. In 1 Samuel 25, Daud, who is commonly known as David, tells Yahochanan, Jonathan, "Behold, Hine, pay attention, tomorrow, Mahar, is a time of renewal of a new month, Hadesh, celebration, Chag, meaning that the renewed moon was being predicted rather than observed. Daud's preference is desirable because it enables a more exacting determination of important dates while allowing us to calculate them into the future. As such, we use astronomy, not astrology, to establish the Miqra'ey throughout Yada Yahowah. Based upon what we have read in the Torah and prophets, while God is perfect, and always exacting in his timing, much less is expected of us. As a result, in our charts, we have provided the best information available so that you can use this data to ascertain the first of Abib between the date of this edit in 2023 and Yahowah's return in 2033. However, since precision is not always possible, we are not being dogmatic. Using the methodology presented in the Torah, a month begins with the first full day in which the moon has already begun to renew its reflected light. This must occur before sundown, whether actually seen or calculated, 9 because that denotes the beginning of the next day. This known, there are still a number of issues that must be considered. First, the initial emergence of light on the moon's surface occurs near sunset because a renewing moon is visually in proximity to the sun from our perspective. If the reflected crescent does not begin to emerge until after sunset, the new month would begin the following day. Second, even in the least obstructed atmospheric conditions and from the best vantage point, if the moon has waxed less than 1%, it would not be visible to the naked eye. So, for our calculations, we tend to accept renewed light of greater than 1% and always only if it occurs prior to sunset. Third, since we do not live in Israel and do not grow barley, we have selected the Hadesh moon closest to the vernal equinox, because this seems to be the best estimation as to when barley would be Abib, green and growing. The selected renewing crescent will manifest within 14 days of March 20th to 22nd, either before or after based upon a 29.5-day lunar cycle. Once you have determined the first day of Abib, establishing the dates for each mode is straightforward. The only nuance is that, in the Torah, a day begins and ends at sundown, not at midnight. Therefore, the 14th day of Abib starts as the sun sets at the conclusion of the 13th day. Fourth, while the rabbinical calendar is often correct, it is not always so. Dates are arbitrarily reassigned for religious reasons, by Catholics and Jews, and, in particular, to avoid Passover coinciding with the Christian Easter. Based upon the Hezekiah experience, in which Chag Matzah was celebrated a month late, and then for twice the 10 prescribed duration, all with Yahowah's express approval, we can deduce that God is less worried about our timing than our intent. Our attitude matters more than our precision. There is even a Torah provision presented in Bamidbar, Numbers 9 for postponing the celebration under certain circumstances. Yahowah wants us to prioritize our relationship with him, to come to know him, to trust him, and to rely upon him, all of which come by way of observing his Torah, teaching. Since he has provided so much information and instruction regarding so many things, when there is an omission of detail regarding something, such as the specific day a new month begins, it is only reasonable to assume that we do not need to be perfect to please our Heavenly Father in this regard. Said another way, we will not be held accountable for failing to determine a date that is not clearly designated in the Word. This difference between God's standard, and His expectation of us, as it relates to the precise day we are to observe Passover, is by design. The Miqra'ey are not rituals but, instead, festivals designed to enable a familial relationship with our Heavenly Father. Their every word is prophetic, and their every symbol is a metaphor, predicting and illuminating the path home. Simply stated, it is more important to understand them, to rely upon them, to take comfort in them, to relax and enjoy them, grateful that God has already done almost all of the work, than it is for us to precisely reenact them. Speaking of the challenge of setting dates, the prophet Isaiah tells us that the sun and moon will be darkened during the time of Jacob's troubles. This indicates that, apart from astronomical prognostications, determining the exact time the final Miqra'ey will be fulfilled, by way of observation, will not be possible. 11. During the process of calculating future Miqra'ey, we compared our conclusions to those posted by Hebkel and discovered an interesting trend. Discrepancies, or differences that couldn't be explained simply by determining when the emerging sliver of a renewed moon would be observable at twilight, were directly related to rabbis altering the start of a month to keep the special Shabat of Yom Kippurim from ever falling on a Friday, which begins on Thursday evening, or a Sunday, commencing on Saturday at sunset, ostensibly to avoid either successive Sabbaths or any correlation with Islam, Friday, or Christianity, Sunday. In that the rabbinical gerrymandering is contrary to Yahowah's directions, we can say with great confidence that the Jewish religious sites are somewhat suspect between now and when Yahowah returns. We have elected to present the date each Mikra commences, as opposed to posting when they will conclude. The reason for doing so is twofold. First, by the time we awake on the day of the assembly, it is already half over. And second, the Torah reveals that the inception of each Mikra is especially important. For example, the first Passover, that of the Yatzah, Exodus from Miriam, the crucibles of religious and political oppression, was observed at night. The only night associated with Pesach commences immediately after sundown. Affirming this pattern, and as he, himself, predicted, the Messiah, Son of God, David, who served as the Zarewah, sacrificial lamb, would have enjoyed Passover dinner on Thursday evening, April 2, 33 CE, after the sun set in Jerusalem commencing the 14th day of Abib. He would then serve as the Passover lamb hours later, still the 14th of Abib, but now Friday, April 3 on the Julian calendar. 12. His excruciating ordeal, as it is presented in first person in the 22nd Mizmor, Psalm, would have concluded just prior to sunset and marked the transition to Matzah on the 15th of Abib, year 4000 year. Commemorating what is symbolically the most solemn and darkest night of the year, his Nipesh, soul, no longer burdened with his basar, corporeal body, was laden with our guilt so that he could carry it into Sheol, hell, and deposit it there during unyeasted bread, never to be seen again. This, the most important, and least acknowledged, understood, or appreciated period in human history transpired on the 4th and 5th of April, 33 CE, spanning the Shabat, Sabbath from Friday evening to Saturday afternoon. All of this would lead to Daud's soul being released from Sheol during Bikurim, firstborn children on the 16th of Abib, now also the first day of a new week. In celebration, Yahowah's Bekuah, firstborn son would have returned to his father in Shamaim, heaven, thereby enabling our entry into the Berith, covenant family as God's now immortal and perfected sons and daughters. Therefore, Daud's Matzah sacrifice began at sundown on the cusp of the Mikra, just as his fulfillment of Bikurim transpired long before the sun rose on the 16th day. The observance always begins at the earliest possible moment and then continues until the sun sets, commencing a different day. Since it is unlikely that anyone recognized that their Messiah and King Daud had fulfilled Pesach and Matzah leading to Bikurim on April 3 through 5 in 33 CE, there would have been only one beneficiary of Shabuah in year 4000 year, the Zarewah and Bekuah, who made it possible. Therefore, 7 sevens after fulfilling Chag Matzah, inclusive of Passover, unyeasted bread, and firstborn children, Daud was enormously enriched and empowered in Shamaim, heaven with his father during Shabuah, the promise of 7. This would have 13 occurred on Sivan 4, the 23rd and 24th of May, 33 CE, year 4000 year. The 28-year journey toward the fulfillment of Towrah in year 5996 year, September 9th and 10th 2029, commenced on Towrah in 2001, year 5968 year, a Tuesday evening and Wednesday September 18th and 19th 2001, 18 days after the 9th of November 2001. This would provide the Nakri, observant foreigner with 32 years, 11,700 days over 384 months, to awaken Israel to the realization that, after fulfilling Chag Matzah in year 4000 year, their Messiah and King would return on Yom Kippurim in 6000 year. The final reconciliation of Israel will occur at sunset in Jerusalem, precisely at 6:22 p.m., the 2nd of October 2033, the first day of a new week. Since we have spoken of astronomy, it is interesting to note in this regard, that there will be a total solar eclipse on March 30, 2033, the day of the new moon marking Abib 1, denoting the beginning of year 6000 year. 14 days later, on the 14th and 15th of April 2033, during Chag Matzah, there will be a full lunar eclipse, commencing in Jerusalem and spreading to Babylon during Matzah, certifying the darkest of nights. And if that were not enough to garner your undivided attention, there will be a second solar eclipse in year 6000 year, 33C on Friday, September 23rd, which is when the final Towrah begins. Then adding to the celestial fireworks, there will be a second total lunar eclipse on the evening of the 7th and 8th of October 2033, coinciding with Sukkah in year 6000 year. The 2 solar and 2 lunar eclipses obscuring mankind's visibility of the sun and moon as predicted in year 6000 year, 2033 CE not only coincide with the 1st and 15th of Abib and the 1st and 15th of Tishri, this is the only year of the 7 preceding it when there is a single overlap, much less 4. However, it is interesting to note that these celestial anomalies will be equally tantalizing in the first year of the 7th millennia of Yah, commencing in 142,034. As with the previous year, there will be a total solar eclipse on the 20th of March, coinciding with the 1st of Abib. 2 weeks later, during Pesach, there will be a lunar eclipse. On the evening of September 12th, marking Towrah, an annular solar eclipse will occur. Then on the 27th and 28th of September, a lunar eclipse will coincide with the celebration of Sukkah. It is as if Yahowah wants to commemorate a good thing during our first year of forever together. As an interesting aside to all of this, Christians in a desperate effort to validate the nonsense of their New Testament, claim that there was a solar eclipse when Jesus died. Beyond the realization that there was no one named Jesus, Passover is always celebrated on a full moon, during which time solar eclipses are impossible because the moon is on the wrong side of the earth to block the sun. A solar eclipse can only occur during a new moon for obvious reasons that seem to escape Christian cerebral processing. However, there was a solar eclipse in 33 CE, and it occurred during the 1st of Abib, March 19th, 33 CE. For those of you enjoying these remarkable celestial affirmations, there was a lunar eclipse on Passover, April 3rd, 33 CE at 1648 local time in Jerusalem on the 14th of Abib in year 4000 year. With sunset occurring at 7 p.m., the lunar eclipse would not have been visible in Jerusalem, which is understandable since there was no one there to make sense of it anyway, but it may have been God's way of demarcating the moment Pesach was fulfilled, 4:48 in the afternoon. This would have provided 2 hours and 12 minutes to dispose of Daud's physical body, laden his soul with our guilt, and transport him to Shaul to begin Matzah at precisely 7 p.m. His Nefesh would have been released at 7:01 p.m., at the conclusion of Abib 15, year 4000 year, April 4th, 33 CE. Fascinating, to say the least. 15 so that we are on the same page, the only significance to Abib 1, is that it denotes the first day of the new year. It is when we begin counting, recognizing that the only way to establish the dates of the Miqra'ey, is to determine the renewing moon representing Abib 1. And that is the reason it is listed in the following charts. The first day of the 7th month, Ethanim, perpetually enduring, from Melachim, 1 Kings 8:2, is listed for the same reason, in that it is used to determine the dates of the final 3 Miqra'ey, with Towrah actually falling on this day. We do not claim to be inerrant in this presentation or anything else. Our goal is to provide you with information that you can use to become right with Yah. Since so many people have recently come to realize through these writings that Yahowah's Mow'ed Miqra'ey, eternal witness to the invitations enable our journey to God, we want to equip readers with our best estimates of when we have been summoned to appear. These appointed meeting dates are as follows. Miqra'ey calendars. Observations. All data is based on the coordinates of the Temple Mount in Jerusalem, Israel, latitude 31 degrees 46 minutes and 41.87 seconds north, longitude 35 degrees 14 minutes and 7.78 seconds east. Dates. In the Torah, days begin at sunset and continue through the following sunset, and do not run from midnight to midnight, as is our current custom. Therefore, our conversion to the Gregorian calendar date reflects the day of the sunset which initiates the Mikra. For example, if Matzah is shown to commence on April 2nd, then the called-out assembly begins at sunset on April 2nd and continues to sunset on April 3rd. Times. All times are presented in military format, 0 o'clock, 23:59. Italics indicate that daylight savings is in effect, making Israel's time zone GMT +3. Times in plain 16 type are GMT +2. Times displayed in the linked images are GMT, Greenwich Mean Time, also known as USD, Universal Standard Time. For example, 1:30 p.m. GMT would be listed as 13:30 on the moon phase images, which is 15:30 Standard Time in Jerusalem, and 16:30 if still under DST. Astronomical new or renewing moon. An astronomical new moon is in conjunction, which is to say that the side which is visible from the Earth is in complete shadow. It is the exact time the moon ceases waning, losing reflected light. For our purposes, the ANM begins the moment the moon begins waxing, becoming illuminated. Sunset, designated as when the sun is more than 18 degrees below an ideal horizon. This is when it is perceived to have set due to the curvature of the sun's rays through the atmosphere. Visibility, this is the portion of the moon's surface reflecting light from the sun. A full moon has 100% visibility. This value does not take visibility from the Earth into consideration. So, positive visibility is specified even when the moon is below the horizon. Age, this reflects the number of days which have passed between the astronomical renewed moon and the sunset for that day. Elevation, this designates the angle above the horizon the center of the moon appears at sunset. The elevation at moonset is by definition 0 degrees. Moonset, this is said to occur when the moon is more than 18 degrees below an ideal horizon. 17 viewable, this figure quantifies the number of hours and minutes between sunset and moonset. It provides a good perspective on how much time a witness has to observe the first sliver of a renewed moon. Be aware, however, that the actual practical viewable time is always less than this value, especially when the moon's setting is close to that of the sun, as is the case with a renewed moon. Astronomical, this precise method of dating designates Miqra'ey dates based upon the moment the moon is renewed each lunar month and begins waxing, regardless of whether this emerging sliver can actually be seen from Earth. Observational, Miqra'ey dates listed under this format use the traditional method, beginning a new month when the first sliver of a renewed moon is likely to be observed at sunset. Our forecasts use the Temple Mount as the vantage point but do not take atmospheric conditions into consideration. Other calendar resources, we have listed other resources which provide additional dates for your consideration and comparison. When information from any resource is not included, it is because they have not provided those data for that time frame. Hepkel.com, this popular Jewish religious site follows the mathematical formula derived by Rabbi Maimonides and other rabbinical traditions for setting what they call the Jewish holidays. They add many dates which are not designated in the Torah, label matzah as Passover, do not acknowledge Bikurim, firstborn children, consistently err in their dating of Shabuah, 7 Shabbats, list Towrah, trumpets under their Babylonian designation of Rosh Hashanah, and artificially alter the date of Yom Kippurim, reconciliations to keep it 18 from falling on a Friday or Sunday, shown as sunset on Thursday and Saturday on our charts.